Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 133. I'm Anemius and today you're in for a treat. Something a little bit different. This guy decided to show up when we were building the Heracles and he's made kind of a pest of himself. He actually showed up and was flying around my base, hovering around, bumping into things, and that was all it was doing. I saved the game, logged out because I had done everything that I'd needed to do for that session, and then when I loaded back into the game, this is what I got. He's still there and he's angry. I learned very quickly that his preferred target is me if I happen to be in line of sight. If he can get to me, he will shoot at me. If he can't get to me because I'm hiding behind cover, he just picks the core of the nearest vessel, or base I guess would probably be a possible target as well, and starts shooting at it, even if it means he has to shoot through a very large section of the ship in order to get there. And he's got a lot of guns. He's actually got quite an intimidating number of guns, especially when you're taking the hits, when you're getting the crap kicked out of you and you don't really have a whole lot of medical supplies. It's a little bit unnerving, the amount of damage this guy can throw down on you in a very short period of time. I realized after a little bit of messing around that I was badly outgunned and that the situation was not going to improve on its own. So I turned on God mode, first of all, to eliminate the issue of dying. And then one of the things that I decided to try was handheld weapons, picking targets on the ship and trying to destroy them with the weapons that I had available to me. And I migrated my selection of epic weapons from the previous world to this one: the epic pistol, the epic shotgun, the epic assault rifle, and the epic sniper rifle. None of those weapons were at all suited to doing any kind of damage to this kind of a ship. So I gave myself an epic missile launcher or rocket launcher, I don't remember exactly the wording, and some ammunition, and I just started shooting at it, and also found that they did very little damage at all. I would go so far as to say that the larger turrets on these ships, the ones with the green markings, may even be invulnerable and unkillable, which to me, not the best, I don't think. If you have a ship or a base with your turrets set to attack weapons first as the first priority, and they just sit there wailing on invulnerable turrets, that kind of sucks. That's not very fun. But it's also possible that they are destructible, but they have certain resistances to various different kinds of weapons. I'm not sure. All I know is I unloaded a lot of missiles into that turret hanging down from the underside of the ship, and it did not destroy it. I was able to destroy some of the smaller turrets, the ones like the machine gun turrets on the sides, kind of hiding around, turning me into hamburger before I had turned on God mode. Those took 3 missiles apiece, generally, as a rule, to destroy, which was not horrible, but still pretty beefy, considering the number of them that are attached to the ship. It's the chances of actually being able to destroy them efficiently without dying are pretty slim, I found. So the idea of handheld weapons against this ship didn't appeal. The downside to kind of migrating to a new world in an early access scenario because of a version change is that sometimes you kind of let things slide because you don't really expect that decision to lead to any sort of problems. So when it comes to adding ammunition to the Saturnus, all I had done was place ammunition for the miniguns. Nothing else was actually able to fire because it had no ammunition. When it came to building our base, I built it with flat cannons to protect against drones, but I wasn't expecting a scenario like this. And what's more, then I started building a great big ship between the base and the Saturnus, so when the patrol vessel moved between the Heracles and the Saturnus, it was protected from the flat cannons on the top of the base for a lot of the encounter, which made things a little bit dicey and not particularly fun. So we discovered that we couldn't do much with hand weapons. We discovered that with God mode off, your life expectancy is not good. You would go through a lot of medical equipment over nothing, really. It brings us to the next possible solution, which is we've got all these different options in terms of guns that we could mount on the base. Let's mount them and see what they can do. So I spawned a bunch in, and then I placed them as quickly as I could, and then I spawned in some ammunition, put them in the ammunition containers in our central base area, and they started shooting at the patrol vessel and brought it down fairly quickly. That was good. That was a gratifying outcome under the circumstances, and realistically speaking, it changed my perception of the tuning of the patrol vessel, because you have that option now to take it down fairly quickly if you put in the work ahead of time to protect your base with enough firepower to chew through this thing's hull and get to its core and take it down. As a result of that, getting these guns placed and bringing the ship down, I was able to spend a little bit of time wandering around inside of it and found that the loot was largely disappointing. I didn't do a thorough job of looking through the ship at all, because one of the things that I found very quickly is that it was tilted on a really funky angle when it crashed, and trying to get around inside was just a pain in the ass, because there's like elevators, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Even though with God mode on, you basically have perma flight, it was still not a fun place to try and navigate. And I just said, you know what, I'm not interested in this scenario, and I don't even want this piece of crap on my base anymore. I want it gone. So, and this is the part that maybe is a little bit informative for those of you particularly playing in single player worlds, because I don't think that this would be a very good option in multiplayer worlds unless you had the permissions already. But if you go to the console with the tilde key, the one immediately to the left of the 1 key in the top left corner of the keyboard, brings up the console, and you can type ENT, which is short for entity, and that will give you a list of all of the entities on the current playfield. And those entities are things such as your base, your ships, any creepy crawlies wandering around the terrain on that playfield, and somewhere in there will be the patrol vessel. And from that you can get the numeric ID for that particular entity, in this case the patrol vessel. So then you can type in destroy space and the number for its ID and hit enter, and it kills it, immediately destroys it, and it despawns, so you can get rid of it. So what I actually ended up doing as part of this process of learning was I exited from the playfield to the menu, the main game menu. I backed up the backup that I had made, loaded in the backup. Everything was all fresh and new except the patrol vessel was still angry. And then I got everything through the process, found out what the ID number was, tested to make sure that it worked when I typed destroy and the ID number, and that was great. And then I backed out of the game again, made a backup of the backup of the backup, loaded in the second backup, loaded into the game, typed destroy, ID number, down came the ship, and it disappeared. Long story short, use the ent console command to get the list of entities on the playfield, make note of the ID number for the ship that you want to destroy, and then type destroy space ID number to get rid of it. And that will solve problems in the short term with ships that are just being jerks that you aren't in any way prepared to deal with. Because there comes a point in games like this where I feel like utter annihilation is not an acceptable option. It's like not an acceptable mechanic, and when you've got all these different things that you could possibly do to deal with this ship, and every minute you spend trying to build those things and then add them to your base or add them to your ship and then make ammunition, and oops, you don't have enough stuff to make the ammunition, so you're going to go mining magnesium now in the middle of a full-on base assault. By the time you get back, everything's gone. How far down the rabbit hole can you go before things are just too far gone to even really make you want to continue? There's so much time invested to get to a certain point. Just having to start over because of something like this, not on my list of things to do. So that's the option for you to take care of business. Having said that, the patrol vessel caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it. I was definitely not prepared for it. I had certain tools that I used to get me past that one isolated incident, but now going forward, if I know what's out there, probably sharpening its teeth to come after me for round 2, choosing not to invest the time to get myself prepared for it, that's kind of pushing it. Are you going to be a puss and despawn everything that's sort of a challenge, or are you going to actually take note of what's happening and adjust? I chose to adjust using materials that I brought from my other world, if you catch my meaning, and expand on the tower that we are now having in the middle of our base instead of just a little square room. And we can take a look at that. This is my solution to all of the problems posed by the patrol vessel, specifically not having enough guns to actually do enough damage to destroy it in a reasonable amount of time before it was able to do a lot of damage to our stuff. Additionally, not having the altitude on the guns to be able to shoot past the ships that were on the deck way down below. That was kind of a problem as well. It doesn't matter how many guns we have if the patrol vessel is hiding on the other side of one of our ships and the guns can't hit it. So we've done our best to take care of that as much as possible. The only guns that aren't on this tower are the miniguns. As I mentioned, I realized after I had built the tower and put the artillery turrets up top that I had missed the miniguns. I'd completely overlooked them. However, I don't regret having done so because it makes sense to have them on the perimeter of the platform once the platform is done. So that's what we'll do. We'll have a total of 6 miniguns, more or less just keeping us safe from creepy crawlies that wander maybe off the landscape and onto the deck here and want to do horrible things, or the troop transport drops off a bunch of bad guys and they want to cause problems. The miniguns will do a pretty good job against those. I have no faith whatsoever in the ability of miniguns to do any kind of real damage against patrol vessels, so I'm not really worried about having them on the tower. I think this ought to be enough to keep us safe. There's plenty of guns here. All of the guns have plenty of ammunition. And I'm kind of actually looking forward to the next time a patrol vessel shows up, because I want to see what this is going to look like when all the guns kind of line up and do their thing. Obviously, we're not going to get full coverage. We're not going to get all of the guns firing on the same target at one time because there's going to be stuff in the way. But we should be able to get at minimum half of all of our guns, possibly up to 3/4, firing at the same target depending on what angle the target is on. See, for example, we've got 3 guns here that could turn around and shoot at us if we were the target, and just 1 that couldn't reach us. That's kind of the idea. I also put lights on it because so far my world here is very dark. I don't have too many lights in place. Between this structure here and the Heracles, we don't have any lights at all, or we didn't have any lights at all until I put them on the tower, because currently the Heracles doesn't even have a power supply. But we're going to be taking care of that very soon. In fact, the next episode, we're going to be back working on the Heracles. We're going to have all of these glass modules complete. Everything will be done and taken care of. We'll be able to do a brief tour of what they all are, kind of give you an idea of the setup for the interior, and then we're going to start working on the exterior hull of the ship. Sometime in between, I'm going to finish off probably this quadrant of the deck so that I can move the Saturnus over here. We're going to need quite a bit of space on the other side of the Heracles from where we are now in order to finish the hull with all of the hangars and things that I want on that side. So there's lots to do, a very big ship to continue work on, and a much better defended base to show for our efforts. Hopefully we won't have to resort to any more console codes to get us out of sticky situations, but at least at this point, if it doesn't work, if this isn't enough to keep us safe from patrol vessels, we can point to game mechanics with a critical eye and say this isn't working. So if you want to be notified about the next episode and future episodes, future catastrophes, and maybe even the occasional thing that goes right, you can always subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.